Howdy Earthlings! It's Friday night. I don't have to work in the morning, so it's time for another star party. So basically, what we got going on here, our normal thing, is that we talk about a little bit about what's been going on up in the sky or what's been going on here with me, and we talk about a couple of space topics, and then we look for deep sky objects. But tonight's a full moon, and we're going to do things a little bit differently tonight. No, that's not the moon on my screen. I wanted to talk about the Artemis moon missions. Now, I'm not well versed in them. I've skimmed through the website. I've watched some videos. I'm trying to get a feel for what's actually going on. I like doing the deep sky imaging as opposed to lunar or planetary imaging, so I haven't really gotten into it much. But it's something that I really want to look more into, because this is supposed to be our long-term human robotic presence on and around the moon, and it's a stepping stone for us to get to Mars. Now, they've got some really good objectives going on. They aim to land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon, and foster a growing lunar economy by supporting new industries and job growth. We are seeing a lot more commercial companies helping out. SpaceX is definitely a big name. Here in Central Texas, about maybe 15 miles south of where I live, is Cedar Park. And Cedar Park is the home of Firefly Aerospace, and they're doing some pretty groovy stuff too. But with Artemis, it's not just that, but we're getting back into the space race. We haven't gone to the moon since the 70s, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories about that. I love it. It's great. But I want to share with you some of the videos that I found on the Artemis program before we actually look at the full moon tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to video and let y'all check this out.
Between 1968 and 1972, America launched 9 human missions to the moon, 6 of which successfully touched down, allowing 12 men to walk on the lunar surface. NASA's next chapter of lunar exploration, called Artemis, has the task of not just going to the moon to create a long-term human presence on and around it, but also to prepare for ever more complex human missions to Mars. In short, everything we must be able to do here, we must first do here. So, what will an Artemis mission look like? Everything is designed and tested with our most important element in mind, the astronauts. This is their deep space, human-rated spacecraft called Orion, built in 3 parts. The crew module, where up to 4 astronauts will live and work throughout the flight. The service module, with life support systems for the crew and its own engine and fuel reserves. And a launch abort system, with engines capable of pulling the crew module to safety during launch should anything go wrong. To accomplish the task of launching our crew and heavy payloads, NASA is building the Space Launch System, comprising of a cargo hold, an exploration upper stage, a massive core stage, and 2 extended solid rocket boosters. Altogether, this is the world's most powerful rocket, and it exceeds the legendary Saturn V of the Apollo era in numerous ways. Sitting on the launch pad, the entire rocket, fully fueled, weighs just over 6 million pounds, 5.2 million of which is just the fuel. Once ignited, there is no stopping what comes next. All 4 RS-25 engines and the 2 solid rocket boosters come to life, thundering our crew upwards. 2 minutes after ignition, the solid rocket boosters are spent and released. 8 minutes after launch, the core stage is depleted and separated. The upper stage fires briefly, placing Orion into a parking orbit around the Earth. Here, the crew reconfigure the spacecraft and check systems to confirm everything is ready for deep space travel. With a go from mission control, the crew reignite the exploration upper stage engines to leave Earth entirely. The exact timing of this maneuver is critical to reach a speed that can escape Earth's gravitational pull, but also put Orion on a course that will intersect the moon days later. Once this burn is complete, the upper stage of the SLS is jettisoned and the crew aboard Orion coast for several days toward all that awaits them at the moon. Approaching the moon, we see the fundamental differences between Artemis and Apollo. Instead of requiring Orion to serve as an expendable lunar command module or to carry a constrained lunar lander, the Artemis missions will take advantage of a different approach: pre-staging. Everything needed for lunar missions will be positioned in advance by commercial and international partners. This includes rovers, science experiments, and human-rated systems on the surface. But it also includes a dedicated lunar station in orbit around the moon called Gateway. Here at this station, we can pre-stage a robust lunar lander and establish a strong communications relay. Designed with open standards, the Gateway can be expanded as new missions and partnerships develop, allowing multiple human missions on the moon at the same time and enabling ongoing science to be conducted even between human missions. The Gateway is also capable of adjusting its orbit to allow access to every part of the moon, something the Apollo missions could not do. But the real key in this approach is placing Gateway in a unique halo orbit to perfect the maneuvers needed for Mars missions. And with the growing list of commercial and international opportunities, Gateway is the ideal hub between Earth and all that lies beyond. Returning to our crew as they approach Gateway, the Orion must match the elliptical orbit of the station in order to successfully dock. Once on board, pre-selected crew members transfer to the lunar lander, while those assigned to Gateway remain on station. The lunar lander system itself is built for 3 unique steps: descending from the halo orbit of Gateway down to a low lunar orbit, descending from low lunar orbit to the surface, and once the lunar mission is complete, launching from the surface of the moon and ascending all the way back to the orbiting Gateway. Once back aboard the Orion spacecraft and undocked from Gateway, the crew fire their engine once to break out of the halo orbit and once again to sling the spacecraft around the moon, placing it on a multi-day trajectory back towards Earth. As they near the end of this journey, the service module is released, and the crew module is oriented heat shield first. Entering Earth's atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, the friction of air slows Orion considerably, while also subjecting it to temperatures of 5,000 degrees. With the Orion now at just 300 miles per hour, a series of parachutes uniquely tested and produced for this moment deploy, decelerating the craft to just 20 miles per hour for splashdown. With each successful mission, Artemis ushers in the next wave of men and women to explore our moon and prove that together we are ready to go beyond.
And of course, I had my microphone off again. I really need to write myself a checklist here. So that was really cool. I really like the way that they're doing it with the halo orbit. But what that reminds me of is there was a TV show I used to watch called Farscape. And if you've seen it, then you would see that Ben Browder's character was not just an astronaut, but an engineer. And he designed a spaceship that would use Earth's gravitational pull and orbit to slingshot it at previously unknown speeds. And it works, but unfortunately there's a wormhole in the way. He ends up on the other side of the galaxy. Very cool show. I highly recommend it if you get the chance. But that's kind of what it reminded me of. And it makes me wonder if we can do something similar when we get to Mars, or if we're able to actually get out further. But in order to get out further, we need to have that jump point at the moon first, maybe. Or, heck, I keep saying we need generational ships to go further into space. I mean, Voyager has been out there freaking how long? I think 70 years now. And, yeah, it takes a long time to get out. But if we could have a generational ship that would take us out there, that would be cool. But the moon's a good first step. They have at least 5 missions planned for Artemis. Artemis 1 actually launched on November 16th of 2022. It was an uncrewed mission that tested the Space Launch System rocket and the Orion spacecraft. Now, that ship was freaking huge. Now, in the video you saw that they compared it to the Saturn V. They actually have the Saturn V down at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. I've been on the tour down there. I've seen it. It is absolutely humongous. I need to actually take another trip down there with my my recording equipment and see if I can't make a video for y'all. But it's absolutely humongous. So with the new SLS rocket being so much bigger, it makes me wonder what the fuel requirements are to get the thrust to get that bad boy out of Earth's orbit and escape gravity. So I found a video on the actual launch of Artemis 1, and I'm going to show that to you guys now. I'd like to apologize once again. I started the video and did not turn on the audio. Still learning how to do this. I do apologize. So let me go ahead and get that audio going for you and restart it for you.
We are going to the moon, to deep space, and to Mars. Humanity will venture further out into our solar system than ever before. But the history that awaits us requires a first step.
This is a story of a mission that represents that essential first step to the moon. A mission that has become the first in a series of increasingly complex missions to expand the bounds of human exploration. This is the story of Artemis 1.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Artemis 1 was a first flight that set new records of performance exceeded our estimates for efficiency, and established new safety baselines for human flight into deep space, all before returning from this journey, plunging through Earth's atmosphere, and arriving safely back on our home planet.
The stakes riding on this mission technically, politically, programmatically, were higher than anything I've ever witnessed. Anything less than the perfect operation of over 2 million parts that make up the Orion and SLS space vehicles, as well as the execution of tens of thousands of procedures during the flight. And it's likely that this generation, our generation, we lose the moon. And yet, as a first test flight of an entirely new spacecraft for over 25 days and crossing 1.4 million miles, Artemis 1 flew a near-perfect mission to the moon and back, flying a human-rated spacecraft in deep space farther and faster than ever before. The launch of Artemis 1 on November 16th, 2022, was a demonstration of new generation of capabilities and powerful performances.
That night, the Block 1 version of SLS became the most powerful launch vehicle ever flown to orbit. SLS roared to life with 8.8 million pounds of thrust. That is 1 million pounds greater than even the mighty Saturn V.
So all personnel, STC,
STC spill.
OTC, GTC, MCO.
Booster, go. Control, go. GNC, go. Prop, go. CDH, go. FIDO, go. FAO, go. MPO, go. All right, folks, go for launch.
At this time, I give you a go to resume count and launch Artemis 1.
And here we go.
10.
Hydrogen burn-off igniters initiate. 4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1.
We stood only 3 miles away from the launch pad. And when that countdown clock hit 0, the SLS lit up the sky like daylight. And we were treated to the ground and air, reverberating the power of that first stage through our bodies. The crackling of the engines and the solid rocket motors was so distinct and even louder than when we launched space shuttles from that very same launch pad.
Confirmation that the solid rocket boosters have separated.
And then hearing the collective gasp of the crowd when we finally heard MECO, main engine cutoff.
The flight dynamics officer reports that we have a nominal main engine cutoff.
And everyone could finally breathe again. The first stage had done its job. That's a moment we will never forget.
Performance nominal. Copy nominal. Booster, how's the engine looking? Looking good, flight. Okay, FIDO, straight and narrow.
The technical perfection of this launch was equally as staggering. Artemis 1 achieved orbital insertion with an accuracy of 99.974%. That's a near perfect velocity bullseye. And a level of precision never flown before on a first flight.
The groundbreaking performances of this mission were highlighted further when the ICPS, or second stage, powered Orion through the perigee raise maneuver, followed by the translunar injection, or TLI burn. They put Artemis 1 spacecraft on a near-perfect trajectory to the moon.
Flight control, ICPS is in attitude control and maneuvering to solar normal.
Copy, good news.
The views of our blue marble in the blackness of space, now capturing the imagination of a new generation, the Artemis generation.
The untapped scientific and resource potential of the moon is incredible. The lunar environment will help us better understand the origins of our solar system, to prove the in situ resource utilization and technology demonstrations required to reach even further into our solar system. But none of that is possible without first successfully reaching the moon with a human-rated spacecraft.
After TLI, teams used Orion to reach a never-before-attempted, highly stable, but also fuel-efficient orbit around the moon, the Distant Retrograde Orbit, or DRO.
So we're all set for OpNav coming up here in about 20 minutes. Correct. Okay, thanks.
Flying by on the entry to the DRO put Orion within a mere 80 nautical miles of the lunar surface. That was close. And this path used the moon's gravity to slingshot Orion out to a new record for a human-rated spacecraft's distance from our home planet of Earth, nearly 270,000 miles away.
And it was in those harsh environments that Artemis 1 truly shined, increasing our understanding of how to confidently operate in deep space. On flight day 13, we canceled a planned orbital maintenance burn because it was simply unnecessary. On flight day 20, we ignited the main engine once again and began the long journey back to Earth.
From this view, Orion is 1,277 miles above the lunar surface following its return-powered flyby burn, which sent it around the backside of the moon. Orion now has its sights set on home.
Artemis 1 set out to fulfill a number of requirements, but the highest priority for this mission was to demonstrate the performance of Orion's heat shield at lunar return velocities. So during re-entry, the largest heat shield of its kind ever made by humans had to prove that it could protect crews from temperatures that exceed 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's nearly half the temperature of the surface of the sun.
Orion hurtled towards the Earth at 24,500 miles per hour, Mach 32, and initiated the first ever skip re-entry. This is the first time that humankind has skipped a spacecraft off the Earth's atmosphere.
For those of us who have flown shuttle, Soyuz or Dragon, coming back from the International Space Station, we wear these Mach 25 patches. This is the return velocity from low Earth orbit. But Mach 32, that lunar return velocity, that's a whole order of magnitude more energy to dissipate. So there we were. Orion had just traveled nearly 1.4 million miles, and it's these last few miles that'll make or break the mission.
We are now in the entry phase.
The team stood silent. Mission control room was deathly quiet as Orion entered the blackout period. And it was tense. We had no telemetry, we had no comms, we had no visual. All we could do was simply wait.
Standing by for a reacquisition of signal. This is the moment of truth for Orion.
And then suddenly there it is.
And there is a view of Orion.
Orion has survived the flaming hot re-entry. Mission control consoles all come alive with data again. We're on glide slope. The drogue's deployed, but again, we're at the point where we're all holding our breath. And there they were. The three big, beautiful main parachutes fully deployed. And we watch Orion gently settle into the Pacific Ocean.
Splashdown. Orion, back on Earth.
We are speechless. We are ecstatic. We did it. At that moment, we could say, without hesitation or reservation, the Artemis generation, our generation, has had its first flight. We are going to the moon.
Statistics show that even through today, newly developed rockets have a failure rate of 50%. And generally, there is no rocket that performs perfectly on the first flight. And yet, SLS performed magnificently. This vehicle was described by space experts as symmetry in motion. There were 140 planned test objectives in the timeline. Artemis 1 achieved each and every one with such precision that the teams expanded the envelope with 21 additional test objectives. Because of the Artemis 1 mission, we retired risks that could have delayed or unraveled the ambitions of this generation, our generation, to return to the moon.
Because of the Artemis 1 mission, we have demonstrated our ability to go farther and faster than ever before, opening the door to explore Mars and other destinations throughout the solar system. By nearly every single metric, Artemis 1 was a resounding success.
Just as Orville and Wilbur Wright were the first to achieve human flight, 50 years from now, we will look back and point to how our efforts to venture out into deep space began here. Our voyage out into the solar system started with this first flight.
And yet, this is but a prelude to what comes next.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Artemis 2 crew.
Human beings will fly around the moon next on Artemis 2, simply because of the demonstrated amazing success of this first flight.
Thank you to the NASA workforce. Thank you to our industry partners, everyone in Europe that's working for this.
We need to celebrate this moment in human history. It is the next step on the journey that gets humanity to Mars.
America has made a very deliberate choice over decades to curate a global team, and we are going to the moon together.
When I think about this mission that's a relay race with international partners, it's also so awesome in and of itself. So, am I excited? Absolutely.
I want everybody to say it. 1, 2, 3. We are going!
You and I, we are all truly part of the Artemis generation.
How cool is that? I really did enjoy learning a little bit about Artemis 1. It was a 25-day mission, and the cool thing was it was carrying CubeSats. If you don't know what CubeSats are, they're cube satellites. They could carry anything from small radio transmitters to weather monitoring equipment. I know that there are people who launch CubeSats for ham radio. As a ham radio operator, AMSAT is the organization online where people get together and try to reach these satellites, bounce signals off of them, use them to get more information, such as a signal from someone who's launched a CubeSat, try to hit like GOES 16, which is one of the NOAA's weather satellites. So these CubeSats are really good for collecting data or just relaying data. So I want to get more information on those CubeSats that they launched. The only thing that really kind of made me iffy was one of the manufacturers. Of course, there were multiple manufacturers for the Artemis 1. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, but also Boeing. And if you've watched the news lately, Boeing's having a few issues with their space or with their aircraft. So I'm really hoping we don't have any issues with the Artemis ships. Now, that was just Artemis 1 was just an unmanned space flight just to see if we could do it. The next one, it will not be launching before September of 2025, but that's the target date for Artemis 2. Of course, these are all launching from Kennedy, not from Johnson. Kennedy is down in Florida. And Artemis 2, as you saw at the end of the other video, has 4 astronauts, Koch, Glover, Hansen, and Wiseman. And they're not going to land on the moon yet. Artemis 2 is just a flyby. And I have one more video I do want to show you on the Artemis 2 mission. Now, all of these Artemis videos, they are available on the NASA YouTube page. I'll go ahead and make sure there's a link to that in the description for the live stream. And here we go. Damn, I really need to remember to turn my microphone on. So that was a teaser trailer for Artemis 2. Super excited about that because we do have the 4 astronauts going up. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. And this Artemis 2 will be the first time since the 70s that we have left low Earth orbit. And it's a huge leap for our space program. And it is a stepping stone to Artemis 3, which is planned for September 2026, tentatively. Again, everything's going to be dependent on functionality of the equipment. It's going to be dependent on weather. But Artemis 3 is the one where they're actually going to land someone on the moon. And that's the one I'm super excited for. It'll be the first human landing since Apollo 17 in 1972. Now, when they talk about landing, the ultimate goal of the Artemis program is to establish a base. Eventually have that lunar base on the moon, and they plan on landing that near the I have my notes here. Near the lunar South Pole. I knew that. The South Pole has permanently shadowed regions that are believed to contain water ice. The ice can be a crucial resource for life support and fuel. Certain areas near the South Pole receive nearly continuous sunlight, which is essential for solar power and temperature regulation. And the South Pole's unique environment offers valuable scientific opportunities, including studying the moon's geology and potential resources. They're considering a lot of different sites here. The one that they are looking at right now is the Stockton crater. I'm trying to get the moon centered here. Oop. Let's get the moon centered here. So we're looking at the moon. And I'm going to try to turn on my cursor here so that I can kind of point some stuff out to you guys here. All right, here we go. So, of course, this guy here, that's Tycho Crater. I actually did a video on that if you want to go back and watch that. But we're going to go even further south, down here to the lunar South Pole. Like I said, there are going to be parts that are going to get sun all the time. Some will be probably on the far side of the moon. But that's the area that they want to eventually set up the lunar base at. Gonna snap a quick pic of that. And we're gonna go 2 times in. And try to autofocus here. So down here is where we're going to have our lunar base. Let's go 4 times in. And I'm going to autofocus again. And there's Tycho Crater again, right here. And we're looking in this general area here for our future lunar base. And as you can see on the video, we actually do have birds that are flying around. Not on the moon, just flying around the sky here, and they are flying in front of the telescope, so I do apologize for that. It's kind of cool, actually. Burbs. And I'm going to zoom back out. Kind of get us back here a little bit. And I'm going to hit the time lapse on that. So again, really looking forward to learning more about Artemis. Again, the information that they have on the NASA website is really good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to research it from there and see if I can't find some more information on it. And like I said earlier, we do have Firefly Aeronautics here in Cedar Park, Texas. My current job, my contract is expiring soon. I do contract IT work, and I'm going to see if there is anything open over at Firefly, because that would just be absolutely amazing to be able to work in the aerospace industry. I know it's not being an astronaut like I wanted to do when I was a little kid, but it would still be really, really great to be able to be a part of that whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a time lapse on this for the moon, and I'm going to take a quick break. And I'll be back with y'all in a few minutes. Hey everyone. So I just stepped outside to check the skies. Here in Central Texas, we have had some rain the past couple of nights. We've had some clouds, and we do have a partly cloudy sky tonight. So between that and the full moon, as you can see here on the screen, the green line here is the moon. And the altitude's not going to be very high, but it's going to be up all night, so it's not going to be great for deep sky imaging tonight. Probably won't be for the next few nights. I am playing what I call messier Pokemon. Gotta catch them all. I'm going to attempt to get all 110 messier objects. Prior to coming up with the messier Pokemon idea, I came up with messier bingo, and I actually made a bingo card with all of the, I can't do that with the thing on, with all of the messier numbers and a date spot so I can write down the date that I actually captured the object. I do have quite a few on here already. If y'all are interested in me posting the messier bingo card that I have to my blog so that you can download it and follow along, let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to do it if anyone wants it. But unfortunately, there will be no deep sky imaging tonight, or probably for the next couple of nights. I do have some video that I've taken of some of the most recent deep sky objects I captured. And I'm going to be making more time-lapse videos, which you can find on the channel. Condensing 8 hours down to 1 minute is a lot of fun, to be honest. And hopefully y'all are enjoying those. If there's any topics you want to cover in future live streams or anything you want me to make videos of, please, please, please stick it in the comments below, because right now I'm doing my weekly stargazing reports, and I'm also doing a monthly constellation with art made by our wonderful graphic artist, Louis Bressy, my child, who is so extremely talented, it's not even funny. He actually did the background that you see behind me. I asked him to draw a couple of exclusive wallpapers for computers and phones for my Patreon page, which I'm still trying to get the hang of. Still trying to get a hang of all of this. I'm trying to figure out how to live stream both to YouTube and Twitch at the same time. I'm trying to keep up with Instagram and posting the pictures that I've been taking there for y'all to see. The links to all of the social media are below. I also did set up a Discord, simply because Discord is the way that I talk with my kids most often. And if you feel like joining it, feel free, open invitation. The link is there in the description to all of my videos. And I would really love to hear from you guys what you guys want to see next on this channel. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end the stream, because there really isn't anything else that we can do tonight outside of lunar imaging. And this time lapse that I'm taking right now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish that up and try to clean it up a little bit and post that to the community page over on the YouTube channel. And I try to post there whenever an idea pops up into my head, little polls and stuff like that, pictures, weather reports to let you know if I'll be streaming or not. So if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe, hit the like. My major goal is to be a full-time monetized astronomy YouTuber by the time I turn 50, which is, 3.5 years from now. So if y'all want to help me reach my goal, subscribe, like, hang out with me. Let's look at some stars together. So thank y'all so much for joining me tonight, and y'all have a good evening.